Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Huck, and we're going to talk about my top 6 books that I want to reread. In my reading resolutions for 2018 video, I talked about some books that I wanted to reread, how one of my goals for the year was to reread more books. I did name a few books in that video that I wanted to reread, and I will link that video down below or on the screen or somewhere you'll be able to watch it if you want to see the books that I talked about in that. But then as I thought about it more, I realized there are even more books and more series that I want to reread. And so I'm going to talk about my top 6 right here. First up, I have The Witches of Eileen by Kate Forsyth. I don't know if that's how you say it, but Eileen is how I'm going to say it. So this follows a young girl named Isabeau. She lives in an isolated part of the world. In the rest of the world, witches have been outlawed. They used to be keepers of knowledge and magic, but they have been outlawed and have gone on the run. Now, in a remote part of the world, Isabeau is being protected and trained. She has no idea about the rest of the world. She doesn't know that witches are outlawed and that they are killed, but she is being trained in the use of magic in this little protected area. She then has to venture outside of her secluded region and into the rest of the world to fight an ultimate battle between good and evil. So this is one that I read quite a long time ago. I read the whole series. I have it like right back here. And I remember enjoying it. I recently saw some people recommending it to somebody else, saying like, if you love Uprooted and if you love Juliet Marillier's books, you'll love these. And I love both of those, and I have read this, but I don't remember it. So I really want to read it, remember it again, and hopefully I will love it the way that I loved those other ones. Next, I have The First Truth by Dawn Cook. This is a series that I loved a lot when I was younger. I don't know if it will stand the test of time. It follows a young girl who originally does not believe in magic, but she is forced out of her home, I believe, and has to go in search of the Hold, which is a fortress that her father had told her about, and she sets off on a journey to find it, and she learns that she has magical powers. While at the Hold, she is learning to use those magical powers, but she is also possibly being manipulated by someone who lives there. There is a keeper named Balak who has sent all the other keepers off on a fool's errand while he searches for a magical book called The First Truth that will bring him more magic and more power than he already has. He believes that he can use Alyssa, the protagonist of our story, to help him find this lost book. So as I said, this is one that I don't know if it will stand the test of time. I do think that it has dragons in it, and I remember, if I remember correctly, there is a love triangle, so like that's not the greatest, but sometimes love triangles can be okay if they're done well. We'll see, but I want to reread it and see what I think of it now. Next up, I want to reread Masks by Patricia Briggs. This is another one that's the first book in a series, and this one follows a girl named Avalon who has been raised for high society, but she abandons that life to become an assassin and a spy. She then is thrust into a struggle between factions. She is asked to gather intelligence and information on a extremely dangerous and extremely powerful Ahhh who is gathering power to essentially take over the world and plunge the world into darkness. So she sets out on her mission with her companion Wolf to help save the world and stop this evil Ahhh from taking over and plunging everything into darkness and chaos. So this is one that, again, I don't remember it very well. I do remember really liking this one and really enjoying it. So I, again, am hoping it stands up after all of this time. It's a fairly short book, so I think that this is one that I can probably get to pretty quickly, but I am excited about this one. And next I have The Sharing Knife, Volume 1, Beguilement by Lois McMaster Bujold? I don't know how to say her last name. But this one I remember has a very interesting kind of magic. We follow a young girl named Fawn who has had to leave her family and is traveling when she runs into both lake walkers, who are a group of people that are very mysterious, and also what is called a malice. And malices are these creatures that suck the life out of people and are able to enslave humans and make them into kind of animalistic creatures instead of people. And lake walkers are these mysterious people who essentially fight against the malices, but nobody really knows that. But Fawn runs into this group of lake walkers and gets to know them. She meets Dag, and the story goes on from there as she learns more about the lake walkers, about the malices, about how the malices are affecting the country and all of the people, and what it is exactly that the lake walkers do. So I do remember that this one had a very interesting kind of magic that the lake walkers use. They have a kind of death magic that they use to fight the malices, because malices are unable to die, and so you must use a certain type of death magic in order to kill these immortal beings. So I do remember that being really interesting, and I'm really interested to relearn that type of magic and how it was used in this book. And next I have The Great Tree of Avalon, Child of the Dark Prophecy by T.A. Barron. This has for a very long time been one of my favorite series. This is the first in a trilogy. Technically, these are the last 3 books of his Merlin series, but these 3, The Great Tree of Avalon books, can be read as a standalone trilogy, which is how I like to read them. This takes place in Avalon. This Avalon is a huge tree. Each root is a different country with a different kind of elemental theme. So there's earth root and fire root and air root. This takes place after Merlin has left and has kind of disappeared, and no one knows where he is gone, but there are stars going out, and there has been a prophecy that the stars going out could spell the end of Avalon. There is also a part of the prophecy that says there are 2 children that will be born in a specific year, that one will be the child of the dark prophecy who will help destroy all of Avalon, and the other will be the savior who can battle the dark child and save Avalon. So we follow multiple characters in this story. We don't know who the dark child is and who the savior is, and we kind of are trying to figure out if any of our main characters in this book could be one of those prophesized children who will either destroy or save this world. These books, I love them so much. I think I remember them being so thought-provoking. They really talk about a lot of ideas of religion and how religion is used and how it functions in the world, how it can either benefit people's lives or make people's lives worse. It talks about the environment and our responsibility to that environment, how much right or control do we have over the environment and animals versus what kind of responsibility we have to the caretaking of the environment. I just remember these being really interesting and really thought-provoking. So this has been one of my favorite series for a very long time, but I haven't reread it recently, and I am really looking forward to getting back into this. And last up, I have Feed by M.T. Anderson. So all of my previous books in this list have been fantasy. This is a sci-fi dystopian that I read quite a few years ago. This book follows a group of teenagers far in the future who are on spring break, I think, and they go to the moon for their spring break, because that's what you do in the future, is you just go to the moon for funsies. In this world, or in this futuristic world, everyone has computers and the internet lodged in their brains, which is why it is called Feed, that you have a constant feed of the internet in your mind. You don't need a cell phone or a computer or anything because it's all in your mind, and people get these implanted in their brains very young, so it just becomes a part of their lives. while on the moon, they meet another girl who actually got the feed implanted much later in her life. So she has kind of a different perspective on the world and on life because she didn't grow up for quite a bit of her life with this constant feed of information going through her mind. And so the main character in this book becomes very fascinated by her, and the two of them become friends and develop a relationship as they get to know each other and see how their understanding of the world and their assumptions conflict because how they have such different experiences, and just this basic understanding of how life works has been different for them. This book is one that I can't say I enjoyed it when I read it, but it had an impact on me. I didn't love it as I was reading it, but after I read it, I remember just sitting there being like, what did I just read? It had such an impact, and I couldn't even totally wrap my head around it, not because it's crazy confusing, but it just kind of what it says about humanity and the possibility of our future is just crazy. I can't go further into it without spoiling more of the book, but I really want to reread this one because I just remember it having this impact on me and just being like, whoa, after I finished it. So that is all for my top 6 books that I want to reread. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these books or if there are any books that you really want to reread. I'd love to hear about it. Thank you for watching, and until next time, bye!